Ridge Forrester has always carried himself like the undisputed alpha of the bold and the beautiful fashion icon, family patriarch, guardian of the Forrester legacy. But what happens when the man who once shared his life with Taylor Hayes realizes he's no longer the only presence orbiting her world? What happens when Ridge learns that Taylor, the woman who mothered his children and once held his heart, may be slipping emotionally into the arms of Deacon Sharp, the same man whose name Ridge barely says without disdain? The answer, according to upcoming developments in The Bold and the Beautiful, is simple. He explodes. And his warning will come sharp, fast, and in 6 simple words. Stay away from Taylor or else. The collision course between Ridge and Deacon has been building quietly, brick by brick. Through whispers, glances, and moments just shy of crossing a line. And now it's here. Deacon Sharp is in a complicated place legally, still Sheila Carter's husband, but emotionally frayed from the weight of the secret she's kept. Chief among them, her hidden ties to Luna Nozawa, a connection that continues to unravel like a ticking bomb inside their marriage. Sheila, ever the master manipulator, has been scrambling to minimize the damage. She wants to retain Deacon's trust, to salvage their bond, but her efforts are starting to read like desperation. Even the calculating calm she so carefully maintains is beginning to crack, and Deacon, torn between loyalty, fear, and disillusionment, is starting to see her differently. But as his marriage falters, Deacon's attention has quietly turned toward someone else, Taylor Hayes. It started innocently. A few therapy sessions, a need to vent, a place to feel heard. Taylor, ever the professional, took the calls, listened, counseled. But Deacon wasn't just processing marital tension, he was cracking open a deeper layer. And Taylor, despite herself, began to see something unexpected in him. Compassion, guilt, humor, even growth. And then, in a moment that neither expected, they crossed into something more. A lingering look, a quiet hand brushing away tears. Then a closeness that brought them nose to nose, breath to breath, the air thick with possibility. Whether their lips actually met or not didn't even matter anymore emotionally. They'd already kissed. The next step was inevitable, unless something or someone stopped them. Enter Ridge. For Ridge Forrester, there's no such thing as casual when it comes to Taylor. Though they're no longer together in any romantic capacity, and though Ridge has spent years tangled in an endless tug-of-war with Brooke, Taylor is not just an ex. She is the mother of his children, the steady compass of his more grounded years, and someone Ridge believes should always remain protected even if it's from herself. So when Ridge hears rumblings about Deacon and Taylor's growing connection, it doesn't take long before he starts investigating. And in the twisted, small circle world of Los Angeles, it's never long before the truth comes out. Whether he overhears a late-night conversation between Taylor and Steffi or catches a glimpse of one to many tender exchanges at I El Giardino, the moment of realization hits him like a truck. And Ridge doesn't sit on this kind of information. He confronts. The confrontation is direct, hostile, and laced with territorial energy. Ridge doesn't mince words when he finds Deacon alone, possibly at Forrester, or maybe at the restaurant, where Deacon's already juggling the wreckage of his marriage and a barely contained romantic spark with Taylor. Stay away from Taylor or else. 6 words, delivered with deadly calm, the kind that signal that the storm is just beginning. Deacon, for his part, doesn't flinch. He pushes back not because he wants to start a fight, but because Ridge isn't the man who gets to dictate Taylor's choices anymore. And Deacon, despite his mess with Sheila, knows Taylor deserves more than to be guarded like property. She deserves freedom, kindness, honesty, all the things Ridge failed to give her for years while bouncing between her and Brooke like a pendulum. You don't get to warn me about Taylor. Deacon fires back. She's not yours to protect anymore, but Ridge doesn't see it that way. To him, Taylor and Brooke will always be 2 poles of a life he can't quite control, and Deacon represents everything unstable, dangerous, and beneath them both. Ridge might be done romantically with Taylor, but emotionally, He's never let her go. The timing couldn't be worse, because despite Deacon's reluctance to let go of Sheila completely, their marriage is clearly crumbling. Every attempt to smooth things over backfires. Sheila senses the shift. She knows something is pulling Deacon away, and she has an uncanny ability to sniff out competition. It doesn't take long before she identifies Taylor as the threat. And that, in Sheila's world, is a problem that demands a solution swift, brutal, and preferably permanent. Deacon is caught in the middle. On one side, Sheila, the wife whose secrets threaten to consume them both. On the other, Taylor, the woman who's given him hope quietly, hesitantly, but with a depth he never expected. Ridge's warning echoes in the background, but it's drowned out by Deacon's internal war. Loyalty versus love. Fear versus desire. Taylor, for her part, remains composed but conflicted. She isn't blind to Ridge's possessive behavior. She knows his warning will come. But what she doesn't expect is how much it affects her. How deeply it stirs old wounds and reawakens years of feeling like she was always Ridge's second best. When he confronts her, questioning her judgment, throwing Deacon's past in her face, she doesn't back down. "I'm not your project anymore," she tells Ridge. "And I'm not yours to defend." Taylor sees Deacon's flaws, but she also sees his efforts something Ridge often reserved for grand gestures, not real change. And as Thanksgiving approaches, a holiday meant to heal and reconnect, the tension only escalates. Sheila wants to salvage what's left of her marriage and insists on hosting a holiday dinner with Deacon. It's a test, a performance, a threat. Deacon agrees to attend, but he's not present. His mind is on Taylor, on what they almost had, on what they might still become. The dinner is quiet, formal, awkward. Sheila toasts to new beginnings, but her eyes are sharp, watching every flicker in Deacon's expression, sensing the emotional distance she can't close. She mentions Taylor casually at first, then pointedly. Deacon deflects, but the damage is done. The evening ends with Deacon alone outside, glass in hand, staring into the night. And then comes Taylor. They meet under the stars, away from Ridge, away from Sheila, away from the noise. Their conversation is honest, painful, raw. Taylor admits she's scared. Deacon admits he's confused. But somewhere in the middle of that emotional mess, there's a kind of peace. A touch, a breath. A kiss that finally happens, not impulsive, not dramatic, but earned. It's a moment Ridge will never forgive. And as Thanksgiving closes, with tensions simmering and secrets blooming, one last twist drops. Ridge receives word from a source inside the hospital Taylor has been consulting with psychiatric professionals on Deacon's behalf. Not as a doctor, as a partner. Ridge's rage returns. This isn't a fling. It's something real, and he's not ready for that. Ridge may not love Taylor the way he once did, but he won't stand by and let Deacon Sharp become part of the family. And the next time they cross paths, the 6 words may become something far more dangerous. You were warned. Now you'll pay. The triangle isn't romantic anymore. It's war. The Forrester estate had never looked more radiant. Beneath a canopy of white roses, twinkling lights, and rushed but extravagant arrangements, Liam Spencer stood at the end of a hastily constructed aisle, waiting for a woman who, after everything, still hadn't made up her mind. The sun was setting behind the hills, casting gold through the arched windows. Guests whispered in polished silk and tailored tuxedos, unsure if they were about to witness a long-awaited reunion or the final unraveling of a love story that had survived too many storms to count. This wasn't just any wedding. This was Liam's last attempt to hold on to hope, Logan. The invitations had gone out less than 48 hours earlier. The justification, spontaneity, passion, a grand gesture in the name of love. But everyone in the room knew the truth. This was desperation. A final act from a man who once had Hope's heart, but now only had her hesitation. And that hesitation had a name: Thomas Forrester. After weeks of mounting tension, the public proposal fallout, the press storm, the maternity lying shift, and the revelation of Hope's pregnancy, possibly twins, Liam had drawn his line in the sand. He loved her. He wanted her. He believed they were meant to raise Beth together, to rebuild the family they had lost, to give her stability, not scandal. And yet, the person he feared most wasn't Hope's uncertainty. It was the version of Thomas she now believed in. Thomas hadn't fought back. Not this time. He hadn't begged, hadn't schemed, hadn't dragged Hope into some elaborate fantasy. Instead, after years of mistakes, after obsession, therapy, relapses, and real work, Thomas did something no one expected. He backed off. And then, in front of a room full of guests, family, skeptics, and ghosts of the past, he stood up uninvited, unplanned, and spoke. "I know I'm not the groom," he began, voice steady, eyes fixed not on Liam, but on Hope. "And I know this isn't the time or place for drama, but I need to say something overdue. I spent years believing I could win love. That if I just tried harder, pushed further, manipulated the moment just right, that maybe someone would finally see me. Not as broken, not as flawed, but as enough." He took a deep breath. "I hurt people. I hurt you, Hope. I made choices that embarrassed my family and damaged my son. And I've apologized before, many times. But they were apologies to fix the consequences, not the cause." Silence swept over the guests like a hush before thunder. Thomas continued, "So I'm not here to ask you to pick me. I'm here to finally let you go free of obligation, of history, of pressure, and to tell you, in front of everyone who matters, I am sorry, not for losing you, but for the way I tried to keep you. I don't want to be that man again, and I won't be." Then he turned to the only person whose eyes mirrored his own. "Douglas," he said, voice faltering just slightly, "if you're listening, wherever you are with the nannies or playing in the gardens, I want you to know we don't inherit pain. We don't carry it forward. We choose what we become, and I'm choosing to be someone you can be proud of, whether or not your mom walks down that aisle today." The crowd said nothing. No clapping, no gasps. Just stunned silence. And Hope. She stood frozen just beyond the edge of the ceremony arch, veil in hand, bouquet trembling slightly in her grip. Her hair curled around her shoulders in soft waves, the delicate white dress hugging her pregnant form, elegant, maternal, unsure. She looked at Liam. He smiled, brave, hopeful, desperate. She looked at Thomas. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't pleading. He was simply present, still, done with chasing. And then she looked at herself, her reflection, ghost-like, in the polished glass doors beside her, a woman divided, one foot in a past defined by cycles of marriage, betrayal, reunion, and another in a future no one had written yet, not even her. Her mind raced through everything: the proposal, the rejection, the media fallout, the backlash, the support, the way Liam ran straight to Spencer Media and tried to rewrite her story in headlines, the way Thomas, for once, said nothing, just stood by her, quietly, constantly. She thought of Beth, of Douglas, of the child or children she now carried. She thought of the legacy she was building. Not HFTF, not Forrester, not Logan, but something deeper. Something generational. She stepped forward. The music swelled as if on cue. Guests leaned in. Hope walked down the aisle, not quickly, not slowly, just steadily. But she didn't stop at the altar. She kept walking. Past Liam, past the stunned officiant, past the stunned crowd, to the center, between the two men, where her voice could be heard by all. She turned. "I appreciate this," she said to Liam. "The effort, the intention, the history, but I can't walk into a future that's built on fear." Liam's face began to crack. Fear of losing me. Fear of Thomas. Fear that if you don't act fast enough, I'll drift. I don't want to be someone you rush to keep. I want to be someone you trust to stay or not. She turned to Thomas. And I see the work. I see the growth. And it matters. But I'm not here to rescue you. I'm not here to complete your arc. Then, to everyone, I'm here because I finally know what I want. Not just in a partner, but in myself. In the message I leave to my children, that we don't inherit trauma. We don't live in fear. We write new stories. She took off the veil and stepped away from both of them. I'm not ready to marry anyone, because right now I'm still figuring out how to be fully me. Ridge blinked. Brooke covered her mouth. Steffi actually smiled. And Liam? He lowered the ring. Thomas bowed his head. Hope walked away from the altar. And for once, it wasn't a scandal. It was a choice. A powerful, transformative, terrifying choice. Later, alone in the garden, Douglas appeared beside her. Does this mean you're not gonna be with Daddy or Liam? Hope smiled. It means I'm going to be with myself for a while. Douglas thought about that. Is that okay? It's more than okay, she said. It's the first time I've ever done it. He nodded and took her hand. And far away, in a world of social media fury and fashion house gossip, the headlines tried to spin chaos again. But the real story? A woman chose to stop the cycle, and that's the beginning of everything.